Hello, everyone, and welcome to this latest episode of Caregiving Gen X Style. I am Steve Mullen.
And I am Jennifer Mullen.
For each of the episodes of this podcast, we have had a rigorous routine of coming up with ideas, researching them, perhaps finding a guest, and recording the results of our labor. But every so often, we like to hand the reins over to you, our listeners. This is one of those episodes. Welcome to our latest listener tips and feedback episode.
You are very excited about this.
I am.
I am too. But
of course.
Yes,
but before we get into that,
your face is filled with joy.
It should be.
Yes.
It should be. You can hear a smile, Jennifer.
I can indeed. Yes, you can.
But before we get into any of that, Jennifer, how is your mom?
Mom is doing well. I was thinking about this recently. Of course, we celebrated Mother's Day a couple of weekends ago. And I was really struggling with a gift idea for her. And I'm a little bit at the point that maybe this makes me sound terrible, but I'm like, she's 86 and she doesn't need a lot of stuff, right? I don't want to buy her stuff just to buy her stuff. And frankly, that's how I feel about gift giving in general.
Oh, I know you do.
Yeah, listen, I'm all about a good gift. If the
like
idea
the ones I
is
usually
there,
do.
You're a very good
I'm a very good gift giver.
You are a good gift giver. But I was really struggling with what to get her. And I was thinking about it. And, at this point in her life, like if she needs something, my brother and I are just making sure that she has it, gets it. There's a very specific, I had found this nightgown for her a couple years ago at Walmart, actually, and it's just the softest, best nightgown to wear in the wintertime. And I only bought one, and I mean, she loved it so much. I went back a couple of days later because I thought, you know what, I'll just buy a few more. Oh, no.
Oh, of course they didn't have them anymore.
Out. So I had been looking for the last, maybe it's been like a year and a half, looking. And this past winter, we were not in the middle. It was before Christmas, actually, like well before Christmas. And I happened to pop in, and sure enough, they had that same style nightgown again. And I think I bought like 5 of them.
As you should.
And so, the point is then the Christmas holiday comes along, or her birthday comes along, or Mother's Day comes along. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to get her. Mm-hmm. Of course, I had it a little bit easy this year because our son just graduated from college.
Kudos to him.
Very exciting. And of course, that means we had beautiful graduation photos. Mm-hmm. And then I realized I really had never officially given her a framed photo of Hannah when Hannah graduated college.
2 years ago.
Right. Although, in fairness, she probably has more pictures of Hannah on her fridge just because that's the way things have worked out. So
she's the eldest.
Right.
That's the way it works.
I guess.
Second child syndrome.
So, we printed out one photo of Hannah when she graduated college, one photo of Jackson, bought a nice double frame, and it was, perfect because what grandmother does not want pictures of her grandkids all over the place. So that worked out well. But I just got to thinking about that. Like, I don't know, for anybody out there, like, don't ever feel guilty, like, and try not to feel the pressure of the actual holiday, because my guess is if you are in full-on caregiving mode, you're sort of gifting all throughout the year, which I think is a good thing.
It's absolutely true.
Anyway, that's how Goggy's doing. Steve, how's your mom?
Well, and to add on to what you're saying, I mean, typically what I do on gift-giving occasions with my mother is that I will go over to her, assisted living and bring her dinner or bring her lunch and sit and eat with her, because typically I don't do that. So, and for her, I think she's fine with that. I don't usually bring cards. We don't do cards anyway. I think they're a waste of money personally, but, so that's what I do. I have in the past bought her some things that, I think make her life a little easier. Like I bought a cup holder for her wheelchair once, and I think it was probably one of the best gifts I ever gave her because there was no place to put things on a wheelchair. So she puts her phone in, she don't put a cup in.
And then I got one of those for mom too. Exactly. Actually, that's a great idea.
So, I mean, little stuff like that makes their lives easier is good. Other than that, I mean, I think just spending time with them and time that you don't have to be running around cleaning, doing this, doing that, and doing the other.
Right.
Is good.
Yes, like that's definitely the thing I've thought about is just, and I'm not trying to, I don't know, sound preachy or whatever, but yes, really at this point, like it is about trying to spend some time together. So, if I do weekday visits versus my brother, he does more of the weekday visits, but I try to pitch into, those are pretty quick. They're I call them like sort of transactional visits. I pop in, I do the things that need to be done and then pop out. But yeah, like on the weekend, try to spend a little bit more time with her. And I think those are the best gifts of all.
I think so too.
Agreed.
So you asked how my mom was doing.
Yes.
She's doing just fine, of course, but I wanted to talk a little bit about a bit of a controversy going on at the assisted living.
I love when I don't love when there's controversy, but seriously, like controversy at assisted living, just that sentence in general kind of makes me chuckle.
There's an actual kerfuffle going on.
Kerfuffle.
Which is one of my favorite words.
You love that word? You love saying that word.
Love that word. So, dinner time. I'll use that as an example, although they've changed all of the meal times, but I'll use dinner time as an example. The way it always had been was that they would deliver meals if you wanted them to. But, the meal time itself was 4:30 to 6 o'clock.
Yep.
And I will tell you, you get up there at 4:30, they're already there.
Yeah, I mean, your mom's like ready to go up at like 4:45.
Oh,
right?
No.
Or even a little before?
4:25. A lot of times.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize she was going that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And usually, I would be there for a few days a week and I'd take her up and there would already be people sitting at the table drinking their tea.
Yeah. All right.
And their iced tea. So they changed two things. Number one, they would no longer deliver meals unless you paid $3 a meal.
Which seems fair.
I
frankly.
Really like because they delivered so many meals. There are so many people in that building that I have never seen.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I'm there 3 days a week.
And that's not good for anybody. It's not good for the residents.
Think so either.
They need to get out and be social. And then also, I can't even imagine the complication of just, figuring out who's getting a meal and which room.
That's the thing. The woman who runs the dining room had explained to my mother, she said, we have to cook the meal early. We have to plate the meal. We have to cover up every meal. We have to keep which one's going where straight. And then we get it to their rooms. And quite often they ask us, can you put it in the microwave for me? So, all those things for every person who wants to be delivered. And I would say maybe half the people in the building were getting delivered food, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, they have exceptions if you're in hospice or if you're recovering from something where you're unable to get up there. Then they'll waive the $3 fee.
Yeah.
And it's it's a small thing, but $9 a day, 3 meals, 7 days a week starts to add up.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is? 7 times 9?
9 times 7.
63.
63.
63.
Sorry. I don't know why I was about to say 56.
We communications people, we don't do math.
My multiplication tables, I had them memorized and down, but honestly, it is a skill I don't have to use all that often anymore.
Well, you're carrying around a calculator in your pocket. The thing that our teachers told us we would never be able to do.
It's not even that. I just don't have that many occasions to multiply stuff, period. Exactly. But I used to pride myself on that. I can't believe I didn't even get that right out of the gate.
You just had a blank look on your face.
I did, yeah.
So the other thing that's changed, though, is dinner time is now 5 to 6. Which I think is kind of ridiculous, but I know it put my mother in a minor tailspin. Oh, well, I guess I'll get up there at 5 o'clock. And I will say my visits are built around finishing up when it's time to go to dinner.
Right.
And so, she has offered, she said, if you want to come 15 minutes later or something, or if you just want to come at the same time and not take me up to dinner, like today, I actually left early because we had completely run out of things to talk about or things for me to do.
Yeah.
And I think she recognized it at the same time, which is kind of rare for her. But anyway, so that's the controversy that's going on there. And I don't think any of them like it.
On the one hand, at, surface level, it's a little funny. Seriously, how much difference does 30 minutes make? But I recognize, these are people who are very set in their ways. Oh, yes. And you know what? They've earned it. They're, know.
And, I will say, having been in 2 different assisted living facilities with my mother being there and me there being there with her, 4:30 is when they want to eat dinner.
Yeah.
I find it shocking considering we sometimes don't eat until 7 or 8 o'clock, but that's when they want to eat dinner. And I have a feeling there's going to be pushback here.
Yeah.
But,
and our 7 and 8 o'clock, that's leftover pandemic. We were starting to eat Italians at 8 and 9 o'clock at night.
We were eating Italians?
Europeans.
Eating like Italians.
That's what I said.
Oh, I didn't hear the word like. It sounded like you said eating Italians.
No, Stephen.
That's weird.
No, Stephen.
And kind of gross.
My point is, we were eating ridiculously late.
We were.
4:30 seems ridiculously early,
Yes.
except that when you're in a place like that and that is your routine, that is your routine.
Well, and a lot of them, they're up at dawn, and so they're eating breakfast at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Although I don't think breakfast there starts until 7, but they're eating early.
Yeah.
And then they have an early lunch, and then they have an early dinner. So anyway, I'm sure the next residents meeting will be quite a show.
Oh boy, man, I would like to be a fly on the wall for that one.
Me too. So, a quick note before we get to the listener submissions for this episode. If you have been with us for a while, you know that every summer we back off on our publishing schedule to once per month. That gives us a little more time to just do things during the summer like everybody likes to do. That time is upon us.
It is.
It is. In June, July, and August, we will put out one episode each and then return in September to our every other week schedule.
But in the meantime, all you listeners out there, if you have any show ideas, any topics, anything you want us to think about.
Always love to hear them.
Yep, absolutely.
And if you
Please.
haven't heard an episode or two, then, as they used to say on NBC, it's new to you. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, that was there. Oh, it's the repeats all summer long. Well, if you didn't see it, it's new to you.
Yeah, I forgot that was a whole slogan.
That was a thing.
Yeah, there you go.
That was a thing.
Good,
I am
good.
just I've got things locked in my brain that really don't belong there anymore.
Oh, you have a lot of things trapped in your head. Yes. All right. Well, as we mentioned in the intro, this is a listener tips and feedback episode. We're very excited about it. We put out the call and you guys responded. It started really because we had received a couple of really good listener emails. And so then we asked for more. And here we are.
We got several more really great ones. Our first listener is someone we have heard from several times before, to the point where we call him Superfan Mark.
Hi, Superfan Mark.
You may remember he wrote to us some time back to tell us the story of how his father decided to climb up one day on a bulldozer, even though he shouldn't have been doing that.
And by the way, like I really have a picture in my head of that whole scene.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we talked about it.
As I recall, he had a catheter in at the time, which was bad.
So I didn't necessarily remember that. But as soon as you told me, Steve, that Superfan Mark had contacted us, immediately this picture popped in my head of this like older man like trying to climb up on the tractor and then falling off the tractor.
Right. So Mark wrote to us yet again. This time with some tips for a listener we heard from in our last episode.
Which I love this, by the way.
Me too.
I love this. We're this community of people trying to help each other out.
It's giving me the feels.
Right? It really, it's awesome.
So Jody, in our last episode, we talked about Jody. She asked us for advice on how to handle a situation where her mother had taken over all care for Jody's father, but Jody was concerned her mother couldn't handle it. So here's what Mark wrote, and Jennifer is going to read it.
Hi there. This is Superfan Mark. By the way, I love the fact that he introduced himself as Superfan Mark. It's been a while since I contacted you all. If you remember, I have elderly parents living on a farm, and my dad fell off the bulldozer. He's in a nursing home now. I'm writing because I just listened to the May 12th podcast with the question from Jody, who has a dad with dementia and a mom that won't accept help from her and her sister. Here's some other recommendations I thought of for her. Be sure she and her sister are designated family contacts with the parents' doctors and specialists. Then get access to the online patient portal. That way they can talk with the doctors, see medical appointments, and view lab results online. You mentioned the county aging department can help, and I agree with that. The sisters will have to become a designated family contact to talk with them as well. They can do visits, at least they do it in our county, meaning in Superfan Mark's county. Monitor medical needs and provide resources such as mom's meals and periodic Uber drivers. The case manager can be one of their allies and help out, provide direction, and point them in the direction of legal resources if needed as well. Finally, I think that in addition to the medical needs, if Jody and her sisters are helping out with other things such as snow shoveling, lawn mowing, landscaping, house paint touch-up, repairs and cleaning, being an IT resource, vehicle repair appointments, and cooking or bringing meals over, then the mom might become more accepting of help in other areas.
So, Mark, thanks, first of all, for writing us again. I think this is the third or fourth time we've featured Mark's comments in this show. And like Jennifer said, I love that you call yourself Superfan Mark. All that's probably just to identify yourself so we know who you are.
I know. It's awesome, though.
But, also thanks for the advice for Jody. The last thing he said I thought was really interesting, and I'm going to assume this is what he meant. And if it's not, then it's my add-on to it. So he suggested, assuming that they're doing all of these things, I said that like a Jersey person, and I don't know why.
You did.
All of these things. It's kind of like what we've told our kids before as they're starting jobs, make yourself indispensable.
Yep.
And they're doing all these things, and she can't live without them. Because, like, for instance, snow shoveling. She lives in Buffalo. Yeah. There's going to be snow shoveling.
Yeah.
And, if they're doing all of these things, making themselves indispensable, perhaps she'll let them back in to the medicine
the other stuff. Yeah.
And, and it may even take a reminder. Hey, Mom, we do all this stuff. Can we please help you with this? And it's a help.
Yeah.
Not take over. Help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think it is a really good point. Yes. It's a sort of potentially holistic way for their mother to kind of view what they're doing, and that it's literally all in the intention of being helpful, whether it's the little stuff or the bigger stuff.
Right.
Okay, well, our next listener email comes from Lindsay. Her father is in assisted living after having had a stroke. We're sorry to hear that, Lindsay. He also has heart problems that require a lot of hospitalizations and doctor's appointments. She is also a stay-at-home mom to 3 children, and one of them has special needs. She does have a sister who helps a lot, and Lindsay says she's fortunate to be in something of a unicorn situation like I am. But Lindsay is also the primary caregiver because her sister doesn't live as close by, and her sister has a full-time job. So Lindsay's husband works 12-hour days, which means that he isn't able to pitch in very much.
So Lindsay had a question related to her situation, and here's what she wrote. I will go ahead and read this one. I'm wondering if you have any advice on arranging transport to appointments when my father is too immobile to transfer to a car. This is something that's certainly going to be on the horizon soon, especially since I'm the only one who can get him transferred because my sister has had back surgery. My goodness. I was also wondering what type of resources may be available for someone to take him to appointments and talk to the doctor and then circle back to me. There are times when everyone's at work and I cannot bring him. For now, I have hired a personal care assistant to be with him during waking hours, but I was wondering what resources there might be to actually bring him and advocate during a doctor's appointment if there is one that my sister and I cannot attend. My dad, like Steve's mom, my mom, has a fair amount of savings that we can use to help arrange the necessary care, so we are extremely lucky in that regard.
Yeah, that's definitely good. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for that email and for your question. There's no doubt that's a tough one, but there are services available out there that might be able to help. First of all, there are a few nationwide services that claim to provide fill-in advocates for when you can't be there. Now, we have not used any of them, so we're not going to give any recommendations by name, but they are out there. Steve, I think you did direct Lindsay to one of them via email, so hopefully she can figure out if maybe they might be able to help with that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a relatively new company. They are claiming to do that sort of service. Yeah. Again, I know absolutely nothing about them, so I didn't want to recommend them on the show.
And I would imagine it's a little bit tricky too, right? Like
HIPAA.
Exactly. Absolutely. But you know what? We all have to take chances in this life, and sometimes when you need the help, you take a chance. You have to really have faith and hope that you are dealing with, trustworthy people. And if there are companies, one can only assume that they're, doing background checks and all of those things on these people that they are hiring to be the advocates. But, side note, right? Side note, like just make sure, I guess, if you're about to work with a company like this, make sure that is something they do, that they are doing background checks on the people that they are saying, yes, they can be your advocate and get all of your parents' health information.
It's true. So, in terms of just transportation, forget the advocacy part. The transportation was what she asked about first. That is way easier.
Definitely.
First of all, there are private companies you can hire that will take them. And if he has an aide, they can go with him, make sure he gets there okay. Additionally, if your father's on Medicare, that you may be in more luck. You can contact them by going to Medicare.gov or calling 1-800-MEDICARE. Depending on what plan your father is under, there may be case management or patient advocacy services available. Now, I don't think they are the type that are going to go to the doctor's appointment, but they may be of some use.
Certainly, we always recommend that you check with your local area agency on aging. We did a quick search in our area, and there were some volunteer services available that could potentially help in situations like this. So we have to believe that that's probably the case. Hopefully in a lot of places. A lot of times it's literally find one place to call and start asking the questions, and hopefully whoever you're talking to, whether it's at Medicare or the local area agency on aging, maybe if it's not something that they provide, they can say, oh, but have you thought about calling
exactly
this company or, whatever. So it's a lot of times it's literally just picking up the phone and making that first contact.
So before we move on from Lindsay, she did have a how's your dad for us, which is, whew. She said her father has a girlfriend in assisted living. And here's what she wrote. Jennifer?
The girlfriend at assisted living almost sent dad to the emergency room because she tried to cut his toenails and got his toe instead, resulting in me needing to bring him to many doctor's visits and rush to the facility at 2:00 in the morning, 2 nights in a row when he kept bleeding after nursing had left and he needed a new bandage.
Yikes.
First of all, I am so sorry to hear this, Lindsay. And then, this woman who's trying to be helpful.
Trying to help.
But can I add, and I can't remember if we've talked about this on the show before. We've probably talked about the fact that one of the things I do for my mom is I give her.
Talked about that.
So I give her a foot
Please,
bath every now and then.
let's not talk about that anymore.
Well, no, I am going to talk about it just for a minute because literally this story is exactly why I'm so terrified when I do this, because it's a thing. Like if I do something and cut a toenail too short and, first of all, she could get even if it doesn't really bleed, but I cut it too short and I open something up, she could get an infection, or heaven forbid, if something does start bleeding,
and if they're diabetic, exactly, you can easily lose a toe.
Like my mom is. I mean, it really is like sort of a terrifying thing to do. So I get it. And man, 2:00 in the morning, 2 nights in a row, that really stinks. Definitely been there, done that.
Oh, yes.
And I just,
don't want to do it again.
I feel for you. That's a tough one. Sorry about that. Hopefully his toes are healing.
Yes. And she stays away from them.
Yes.
Right. You wouldn't have to tell me to stay away from toes.
No one would have to tell you that. Yes.
Our next listener email comes from Lisa, who has a how's your dad for us. She said, my father is 88. He has a lot of health issues. He's a stroke survivor, lymphoma survivor, and now his heart and kidneys are very bad. Oh my. He's convinced he's going to be dying soon. While I think he's being realistic, it's also very disconcerting to hear him talk about death like that. My mother, on the other hand, is 83. She's a stroke survivor as well, but her stroke was much more severe than my father's. She's been in a wheelchair since 2014. Her heart is also not very well. She had a pacemaker installed, and recently her cardiologist recommended an internal defibrillator, but she declined. I think she feels that if my dad is not going to be around much longer, what's the point in putting off her departure from this earth? Woof. I'm the youngest of 3 kids, but I'm the only daughter, so a lot has fallen on my shoulders. We've talked about that before. I'll be setting up an appointment with their lawyer soon just to make sure I understand what to do when the time comes. There was a lot that I didn't understand about middle age when I was a kid. I didn't understand why middle-aged people seemed so overwhelmed, but I get it now. I get all of it now.
Yep.
Wow. That last paragraph.
That is a lot, Lisa. And yes, definitely. It is really interesting how your perspective can change over time. And yeah, here we are all in the middle of all this. And yes, it does feel terribly overwhelming sometimes. When you're a kid, you have no idea what responsibilities your parents are dealing with. And now that we're the quote unquote elders, I mean, I don't know, are we elders?
Our parents are the elders. We're older.
You wrote elders in
I
the copious
did in the copious
notes.
I said elders, but you know what I mean.
Refuse
We
to be an
are
elder, but yes.
the people that
We
the
are now
younger
the
people
ones,
look to.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, we're not experts on it, but it does sound like your mother and father are dealing with some depression, which is certainly understandable and, completely normal, I think. Having someone to talk with about their feelings might be helpful, particularly if it's someone outside the family. If they're open to it, having them talk with a therapist could help, or if they have a church they attend, maybe a priest or a pastor could potentially help. But in the end, they're facing their own mortality, and that's rough on anyone. I guess I would say, it sounds like it sounds like potentially your father's in a slightly more serious medical situation. If, I would just add too that there have to be positive things, right, to point out potentially to your mother. And maybe it's about directing the conversation to talk about things that your mother used to find joy in. I mean, I'm literally spitballing here, but, going to museums, going to a park, going out to a restaurant, whatever that is. I mean, maybe there are some ways to have conversations with her about, we want to continue to enjoy these things with you, Mom. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and, another thing, and this is, something that she may not agree with and that may not ever happen, but one possible idea. When my father was sick, for longtime listeners, my father died 25 years ago of brain cancer. And Jennifer just looked, really? 25? Yes, it is 25 years.
I always
this
remember
year.
It based on Hannah's age because he died just before Hannah was born, which is very sad because they would have loved each other.
But when he was going through treatment, he had a stroke as well. And when he was going through treatment and the PT and all the other stuff, he was kind of depressed, as one would imagine. I mean, after the stroke, he lost control of half of his body. They did put him on an antidepressant. And the idea, now mind you, he was much younger. He was 62 when he died. Actually, I'm not even sure he was 62. But anyway, the idea being that if he was in a little bit less depressed, he might be more willing to go through all the therapy that it took to potentially come back from all of this.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an option or not. It could be discussed with your doctor to see if they think it would be something that might help.
I mean, listen, there's no doubt about it. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, I think. And it's kind of a weird thing, right? Like on the one hand, at least me, I guess you kind of want your elderly loved ones to be sort of realistic about mortality.
Sure.
On the flip side, if it sort of overtakes them and they just don't want to be here anymore, right? Like that's getting the seesaw a little bit out of balance.
Right.
It's hard, really hard. Well, best of luck to you, Lisa. And if you do, try anything with your mom that seems to work, seems to, provide some relief or give you some improvements, we'd love to hear about that.
Please get back with us.
So another listener submission was sent via Facebook Messenger by Marcy. She had a quick question. My mom's best friend just passed away. What are some strategies to help her cope during this difficult time? So Marcy, thank you for that question. Losing a best friend is tough, or really losing any friend is tough, and particularly when you're older and may not be able to make friends as easily as you used to, for a whole bunch of different reasons. A quick bit of research brought up a few suggestions.
So one thing is obviously just be there for her, which we're sure you're doing already. But perhaps in this time when she's grieving, you could take it a step further by maybe bringing a special meal to her. We don't know if she may live with you. She may not live with you. We really don't know. But one way or another, either make a special meal or bring a special meal to her. Take her out to eat if she's able, or sit down and watch a movie with her that she picks, or take her out to the movies. Going to the movies can distract you like nobody's business. You're sitting in a dark room, and
it's one of my favorite things
I know it is one of your favorite things, not so much mine.
I mean, plus buttered popcorn.
Buttered popcorn, of course. Everyone loves buttered popcorn.
Well, I think it's pretty common to remind, survivors like Marcy's mother that her, friend is really in a better place. That's somewhat helpful, but I think a better way, might just be to ask her to, tell some of her favorite stories about her friend, right? Be sure to sit down and actively listen rather than listening while doing other things.
Which is a hard thing as caregivers. We want to be multitasking, but actually really sit down and sit next to her.
Sort of similar to what we were saying to Lisa about, her mom and trying to focus on some of the joys in life. Kind of, the same thing here. Try to get Marcy, your mom, if she can, think about some of the fun, happy memories that she had with her friend and to talk about them. I mean, maybe that would be helpful. Is it going to be a little bit sad too? Probably, but maybe that's helpful as well.
Maybe pull out some pictures if she has them.
Yeah.
And just think, what were you doing here? What were you doing here? What was, that sort of thing. I know that helps with my mother.
Maybe there might even end up being, some funny memories that, give your mom a laugh, give her a little bit of chuckle. And, we all know, what do they say? Laughter is the best medicine.
Laughter is the best medicine. They say that. It's true.
Another tip would be to ensure that she's making new connections with social activities, if that's possible. So, for example, if she's living in a senior community, this could mean encouraging her to keep involved in all the activities they have. But if she lives independently, maybe it requires a little bit more research to, maybe find a local senior center or some type of activities, church bingo.
Church bingo is a big one.
By the way, I mean, I love me some church bingo or winery bingo. Actually, the stage of my life, like the winery bingo.
That's a callback to a previous episode when we talked about that. I mean,
that's kind of fun too. But,
although we do have community bingo in our area. It's at the local baseball facility.
Well, yeah, most places
that is hardcore bingo.
They're probably too serious for me if I had to guess.
They are way too serious.
But also, don't they allow smoking inside? Can't do that.
They used to. I don't know if they still do, but I volunteered. It was a fundraiser for one of Jackson's soccer teams, and oh my goodness, this is not church bingo. This is not assisted living bingo. These people are serious.
So Marcy, don't take your mom to the cutthroat bingo, but maybe like the fun bingo.
Exactly. The National Institute on Aging has a pretty good article that I think could potentially help. That Marcy, you ought to give a look. I'll put a link to that in the show notes for this episode.
Well, our final listener question comes from Samantha, who writes, I have an ongoing dilemma, how to take care of my own needs without mom thinking I'm abandoning her. Basically, how do I take care of my mom's needs without wanting to crawl into a hole and die? It's a great question. Mom says she wants me to work and have a social life, but then if I tell her I need to step away to work with a client, her tone and body language tell me how sad she is that I have, quote, chosen to not be with her. I did, in fact, quit a 6-figure job to care for her, and I moved so that I could live 5 minutes away. That's a lot already, Samantha. That is a commitment for sure. So then it took me over a year to convince her to hire help, which right now is just 1 day a week. She won't sell her house, and she doesn't want to be dependent on anyone, except me, apparently, and she doesn't want to spend her money on a home aide. It makes me so angry that she never planned for the possibility of needing care, and she can't process how her actions are putting me in a precarious and possibly disastrous financial situation.
So thanks to Samantha for the email. I believe this is actually the second time we've heard from Samantha. But Samantha, I'm going to tell you, tough love is really, I think, the only choice here. You have to set boundaries. You have to make sure she understands that you have a job that you have to do in order to make the money that you need to survive. And, I don't know what her situation is, how much help she actually needs, but I think you need to set the boundary at, this is what I'm able to do for you, while also taking care of the things I need to do to take care of myself and any family that you're also paying for. I think tough love is the only way to go.
Yeah, I think I do want to address to Samantha and acknowledge that you said how angry it makes you feel. Just so you know, that is a perfectly legitimate and valid way to feel.
We all get there sometimes.
We do all get there sometimes. I mean, I've certainly been there before, and my mom's circumstances, there are a whole bunch of reasons that my mom is in the situation that she's in financially, of her no specific doing. But I've found myself at points like being really frustrated and wishing that maybe certain things could have been done differently along the way. But so I think those are really valid feelings. What I'll also say is, have the feelings, Also, I think you have to tell yourself a little bit, there's nothing that can be done now about what wasn't done previously, right? So feel angry, that's okay. But then also, you can't change what wasn't done. So you can't change the fact that your mom really didn't prepare for these possibilities. But as, tagging on to what Steve was saying, I do think it's going to require a little bit of tough love. And I think it's really important to remember if you need to have the reminder in your head to make yourself feel okay about having the tough love, you're going to live a whole heck of a lot longer. And like, you've got to do what you have to do for you. And I know that sounds like really pretty harsh when we're talking about, well, is it you or your mom, who's someone you love? But I think about when we've had conversations, Steve, like with our financial advisors and certain things that we, plan for our kids and how we're going to pay for certain things. And then he's had his moments where he's like, yeah, but like at some point, remember, they have much more, time to earn a living. You guys need to make sure you take care of yourselves. Mm-hmm. I think this is a very similar situation. Like, Samantha, you got a lot of time to live, so you got to take care of yourself.
Agreed.
It's 100%.
Hard. And it's tough. And your mother may be angry, and I think you may have to accept that she may be angry, and let her know that you love her and that you will do what you can to help her. But there has to be there has to be a little bit of a limit. And
maybe there's a way, I'm just sitting here thinking, we've talked before, certainly multiple times, about, sort of the loss of control that older people feel. Is there a way to sit down with her and say, okay, we're at a point now, we've got to make some choices, and I don't want to have to make them on my own. And I don't want to have to like put my foot down and make, these very sort of definitive decisions about what I can't do for you. So let's talk about this together. What are the solutions? What can we come up with together that will, provide us both a good balance here? So maybe if you can involve your mom in that conversation a little bit, maybe that would be helpful.
Right. Well, you'd say, look, I can only come over, we're just spitballing here, but I can only come over
4
days a week.
Yeah.
3 days
Whatever.
a week, 4 days a week, whatever it is. How do we make sure you're safe during those days when I simply cannot come over because of work? Or, I can only come over 2 hours a day or whatever it is. How can we make sure that you're safe and taken care of during those other times?
Yeah. And maybe you could even say, like, here's a couple of options. There's this senior community center nearby, mm-hmm. or we could talk about hiring someone to come. Like, right. maybe it's even, I think about that, like we did that with the kids too, right? A lot of times it was like not just put on this outfit to go to school. Here are your two choices. Mm-hmm. Hannah, you can wear this dress or this dress. Which one do you want? And then she got to pick and she was all happy.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I hate to say it, but we've talked about this before. It is a lot dealing with our parents or our elderly loved ones at this stage. A lot of times is a little bit like dealing with the toddlers. And so keep that in mind too when offering the choices. And maybe that would help the conversation somehow.
Right. We'd like to thank everyone who sent us emails for this episode. Good luck to all of you. Good luck to all of us. Yeah. Everybody who's listening, good luck. We really appreciate our listeners. And as Jennifer said earlier, we really do want this to be a community where it's not necessarily just us talking. We're hoping that people can help each other, like Superfan Mark coming in with some advice for Jody.
Yeah. And we're, please, I think we have to reiterate, right? We're not experts here. We're definitely not experts in a lot of these things. We've talked a lot about this for the last 3 years. Man, has it been 3 years? Two and a half. Wow. A long time. So yes, we've talked about a lot of this stuff for a long time, but, we're not experts, but we are just trying to provide a space for everybody to talk all these things through. Mm-hmm. And hopefully somewhere in the middle of even just one thing we say is maybe helpful to you at some point.
The difference between us and our listeners?
Yeah.
We have microphones.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that is literally it. I was thinking about this when I was writing this episode. I almost put that in the intro and it just didn't work for me, but that is literally the only difference. We're sitting here talking.
Yeah.
You're listening, but you know as much as we do.
Yeah. In a lot of ways. I mean, yeah, there are some things that we've certainly researched and really that Steve has researched and,
yes,
and we've had our experiences that we've had and we can share those with you. And then we know you've had your experiences and yeah, we're all in this together. That's for sure.
It's true. So thanks to everyone for listening to this episode. Again, thanks to everyone who wrote into us. If you want to get in touch with us, like the folks who did in this episode, we have an email, caregivinggenxstyle@gmail.com. You can send us a text or leave a voicemail. We really love voicemails. 804-723-1221 is the number. You can find us on Twitter. We don't post there all that much, at Gen X Caregiving. We're also on Facebook. That's the place where we post the most. And you can find us there by going to the show notes of this episode and clicking on the link. We hope to hear from you soon. We'll be back in June. Have a great day.
Good night, everyone.